What did a friend of yours do that turned you on without them knowing it? The restaurant I used to work at had a vacuum we could use that was shaped as a bread box that you could strap to your back like a backpack. It definitely looked straight out of Ghostbusters. My very cute coworker was using it, and when I jokingly asked if she was having fun, she responded with "who ya gonna call?" Wink. This was almost 10 years ago. This painted the cutest image in my head. I was sitting on the steps of a shop with a couple friends when she came around the corner with some of her friends. We talked a bit, and then she sat on my lap and brushed my hair. She couldn't get rid of me from that time on. We were married for 44 years, and she died of cancer in March this year. I feel so empty and lonely and miss her like crazy. I was wearing a jacket that was unzipped. She put her arms inside my jacket to hug me goodbye. Felt weird for some reason, even though it was outside the shirt I was wearing. A good friend and I were once drunk and tired, so we came up with the idea of taking turns slapping each other in the face. So that was a weird boner. This is funny, you can see the drunk logic right away. We were studying, and she said, "Duck this, let's do some jiu-jitsu," and jumped on me. I did my ducking best to prevent that erection. She either has a warrior spirit, or is into you, my dude. Pour one out for another missed signal. I'm going to get on top of you, and aggressively touch and rub your body. I guess this is what the friend zone feels like. F. She was meant to go out, but ended up sitting with me chatting. She was all dressed up, and because of the way she was sitting, her dress kept sliding up her thigh. She fixed it twice but stopped trying. Her thigh wasn't totally exposed, but a bit more was showing off. That's how I realized I have a thing for legs. I once dated a dude who was into legs, and lem tell you, that was the ducking best. I love when I would wear shorts and just walk around, it felt like I was teasing him, and it was so easy to turn him on for 6. Just wearing extra short pajama shorts did it for him 90% of the time. It was awesome. That would do it for like 90% of us dudes. He has been the only guy that I've been with that was into it, surprisingly. Although I mean with no other work. No kissing, no touching, just pajama shorts. I was wrestling with a girl, not fake wrestling. Both of us were actually trying to win, and we were in a ring, who I wasn't really interested in. When she had me in a hold that I wasn't able to get out of, I got a small chub. A college housemate was on the couch next to me as we watched TV one night. She mentioned a concert that was coming up and asked if I was down to go. I wasn't too keen, so I turned and have her a blank stare. She held my gaze and moved her eyebrows up and down twice quickly. The effect was devastating. I don't know if it counts as turned on or a moment of deep infatuation, but I still think about those goddamn eyebrows. My manager and I were talking about something, and he called over another coworker, and she ran up and did a little hop into a superhero pose. I was speechless for a couple of seconds cause that was the cutest thing I've ever seen somebody do. Wouldn't it be cool if she had done like a full-on 20-second Power Ranger type intro though? Complete with giant jets of random sparks spraying around behind her. I had my hair in braids, and he jokingly yanked on one. I had a lot to think about when I got home that night, lol. The best ones are when you get a handful right at the roots. Not to pull, but just hold. That'll do it. A man friend of mine who I'm flirty with, but have never slept with, yet, it's been 20 years, will grab a handful of my hair in the back, at the base of my skull, and lightly pull. It's sexy AF. Edit, I'm 50. Y'all can cool it with the come-ons, lol. As a joke of my best friend attempting to act crazy, she put her hand around my neck and tried to choke me, and I just started smiling. AAH, the sweet embrace of death. When my husband at the time was just my friend, we were wrestling a bit, and I ended up standing over him with my foot pressed on his stomach. He tried to move, and I teased, "Don't move, or I'll step on you harder," and pressed down playfully. It was that moment I realized he liked dominant women and I like dominating. Edit, didn't realize y'all were into this laughing emoji for those of you who are mentioning that I turned myself on first. I didn't get turned on at this point at all. It was only after we dated for a bit and talked more about what kinks we liked that I realized I wasn't a sub, but more of a dom/brat. She bit me in the face. Softly. Biting is like kissing, but with a winner. Ayo dude, my cat did that. So it was the day after this huge natural disaster happened. Major news story in the US in August 2017. And the government agency I work for was like, all hands on deck. So every civil engineer was assigned to relief and recovery efforts, including me. The guy who sat next to me at work was your typical nerdy engineer, but dressed nicer. Then as I was waiting outside to be sent to the field, I saw him getting out of a truck wearing dirty jeans, steel toe boots, and carrying his hard hat, looking all sweaty and dirty and delicious. He's my boyfriend now. Hard hat and boots? I'm totally into this winky face. Bob the Builder looking like a snack. No matter the person, anyone whispering in my ear turns me on. It doesn't even matter what they say, haha. It's free real estate. Thanks, now my keyboard is covered in water. FaceTimed me while she was wearing cute pajamas. Now cute pajamas is on my ever-growing list of things that I'm ashamed turns me on. Duck. Edit. Seems like a lot of people have the pajama turn on too, along with a few other ones I have. Feeling a little less ashamed now. Thanks guys. What kind of PJs were they? IDKY, I'm curious. Edit. Also, don't be ashamed of what turns you on. You do you, man. Pink flannel with donuts on them are okay. I see what ya mean. Not gonna lie, I think it's cute that the cute PJs did it for you, and it wasn't a turn off cause they weren't sexy. My friend's ex-husband was like that, and it was so shallow, I thought. Not dogging on the sexy ones though, I think we'll enjoy those lol. Personally, I'm a much bigger fan of casual, almost inadvertent sexy clothes and straight up lingerie, like an oversized shirt and a pair of panties, and now I'm bothering you while you're trying to make coffee. Long affectionate hugs. An attractive female friend of mine gave me a hug that lasted around 30 seconds, and she was squeezing me the entire time. Halfway into the hug, I popped an unexpected boner that I'm pretty sure poked her thigh. I don't think she noticed, and if she did, she never said anything about it. I'm a long hugger, female, as well. This happens often with men. You guys just aren't touched enough, I think. There's some magic in a long hug. If she's generally a long hug giver, it's happened to her before and probably understands that it's not overtly sexual, just a response to the closeness. Edit. Ooh, shiny. Thanks for the silver. Double thanks for my first gold. Zarks. That's so true. Usually my other female friends just give quick sidearm hugs, which is totally fine, but guys love affection just as much as women do. Look at this guy, getting enough hugs to be able to say usually. A friend of mine asked me to hang out with her in her dorm room. We were planning on watching a movie, but at the same time she said she was going to do some laundry. I told her I had no issue helping her with, that is, carrying the actual laundry bag. I knew she was kind of taking advantage of me, but she also made killer nachos, so it seemed like a fair trade. When I got there, she was essentially wearing sleepwear, a tank top, half shirt, and very tight red running shorts. It was very difficult to pay attention to movie, so she asked you to hang out in her dorm with her, was wearing sexy clothes, and made you food. /whoosh. Many moments of our initial relationship could be described like that. On what I later learned was our first date, I told her that I was looking forward to asking out another girl. Bruh moment. He was giving a talk in front of a bunch of people, and he was so confident and intelligent, and everyone was just so engaged with what he was saying. I legitimately wanted to just suck his sausage right there, watching him own. That room was so ducking hot. By your description, I too want to suck his sausage. Fight you for it? Just share it. Christ, didn't Dora the Explorer teach you anything? I sat beside a girl in school, really attractive with a nice body. She always leaned backwards over her chair to stretch and crack her back, so when she did it, she let out that sigh and a little moan. You duck concentrating for the rest of the lesson. I blame her for being bad in school, and now I have an erection thinking about Kim from high school doing the same thing. It's a little embarrassing, but I had a work friend who laughed as she grabbed my arm after I told her a joke. The physical touch combined with emotion. Yeah. It caught me totally off guard, because it wasn't a light tap. It was a touch that lingered until she stopped laughing. Put her hair in pigtails. I legit died after getting home. And Redditors who were dating someone That went from I think I want to marry this person to I think I need a restraining order. What happened? She punched me in the face while I was sleeping. Apparently my phone had woken her when I received a text in the middle of the night from a girl asking if there was any chance I could come pick her up. She assumed I was cheating and figured that the most efficient way of addressing her concerns was to just punch me in the face hard while I lay there sleeping. The text was from a non-Alabamian cousin who had some sort of semi-emergency and needed to get picked up from a party. Started dating in high school, had some ups and downs, but at the time I just chalked it up to us being immature. My last 2 years of college really proved he just had serious issues. When I moved out of state for good, it's like a switch flipped and he got extremely possessive and controlling. Wanted all my friends' numbers, gave me a schedule of when we need to be in communication, and if I missed any he was blowing my phone up with threats of suicide. Finally got the restraining order when he showed up to my friend's apartment looking for me, threatening to call the police because I still had a pair of issues that I didn't even have. That's so crazy. Something very similar happened to me, except I was the other side of it. Looking back, it's insane to me how I could think the things I was doing were right, but I did them anyways. I'm not sure what happened in that relationship to bring that out of me, but I developed some serious hang-ups that I'm still working to get over today. That's awesome that you were able to self-reflect, see your mistakes, and take ownership of addressing those issues. If everyone thought this way, the world would be a much better place. Thanks for being a better version of yourself. We were spending a large amount of time together, with me staying at his house several nights of the week. He went mad one day because he said we weren't spending enough time together. He pulled out a notepad and drew up a schedule, outlining in excruciating detail each hour that I would spend with him throughout the week from then on. I distinctly remember sitting there, saying nothing and feeling like I was in the twilight zone. Things got significantly crazier from then on, but this moment always sticks out in my mind. Edit 1. I've just woken up to lots of messages of support. Thanks so much. I'm very happy to have gotten away from this kind of controlling behavior. This was a number of years ago, and I have done much healing since then. BTW. On a slightly more amusing, but equally crazy note, this guy also once wrote a book about me. A full-scale novel. Edit 2. Lots of people asking about the novel. We had been broken up for a few weeks when he randomly emailed me a PDF. The novel had a picture of me on the front cover. It was a romance story about the entire lives of two people. It was very clear that these characters were supposed to be us, thinly disguised with different names. It was a fictional imagining of what our lives would have been like together, with entire chapters on our wedding and our sex life. Shudder. It was so clear that this was an over-the-top attempt to get me back. The book was clearly written in a great hurry and was full of mistakes. He kept slipping pronouns, totally forgetting that he was writing a third-person novel, and addressing me directly by saying things like, "You know I'm your destiny," screams him a thing. No one will ever make you feel the way I do. I highly doubt he tried to get it published. Big red flag. I found out he was soliciting underage girls. Like a record scratch. It was over. Edit. Whoa. Thank you all. Yes, he was arrested and went to jail. We were in a long distance relationship for over 3 years and eventually it started to fizzle. She'd tell me to move to the States and drop my college degree, my family and my animals to live as an illegal immigrant, and I could just do whatever odd jobs I could find just to be with her. I told her I needed to wait. She'd get very upset every time I went out with friends and would bombard my Facebook wall with random crap and send me private messages with passive-aggressive insults and threats of suicide. I broke it off with her and moved on, but she kept messaging me asking to be friends. I tried, but she'd randomly blow up at me insulting me for ruining her life by making her think she could be loved. I told her she did deserve love, and she'd get even more upset. We couldn't talk at all. Last year she messaged me yet again. We broke up in 2013, telling me that I had a legal obligation to marry her, since I said I would 5 years ago, and therefore she expected me to just fly up there and fulfill my obligation to her. Had to block her. Edit. Sorry, I don't think I explained myself properly. It wasn't an exclusively online relationship. We did see each other. I would travel up there twice a year. whenever I had vacations from uni and spent about 2 months with her, which were always great, she'd just get incredibly possessive and insecure when we were apart because my social life started to blossom down here and she was scared I'd meet someone else. Once I stayed for 6 months until the very last day of my visa. Legal obligation to marry her because you said that 5 years ago. That's nuttier than a squirrel's hoard of nuts. She has many issues, but she's also been handled a really rough hand in life. I'll always care, but damn that one was too much. I was young, dumb, and thought I was in love, and ignored many red flags. As he got more comfortable around me, he let his crazy out. Someone stole his cell phone and he asked me to purchase a shotgun for him so he could go shoot the person who did it. It took me another year and a half to leave. I did try breaking up with him, but he told me that if I ever tried to break up with him again he'd kill everyone I love, and then himself, so I'd know what it was like to be alone. That relationship ended in an order of protection against domestic violence. He was nuts. Oh god, I can't imagine the fear you felt in that moment. I was dating a guy who was very sweet in the beginning. After about 6 months he got possessive. He didn't trust me. An example of this was one night I told him I was meeting a friend I used to work with at a bar a block away. We lived in a safe area, and it was a short walk. Her name sounded like it could be male or female, but I assured him she was a she. He showed up at the bar while we were there, and it made him look very insecure. He began tracking my phone's GPS. I found out when I stopped at a relative's house after work on my way home, and he freaked out and called my mom. She actually knew that was where I was, and he had a hard time believing I wasn't cheating. The last straw was my first week at a new job. I worked nights and had my phone. I got this long-winded email regarding an innocent comment on a Facebook selfie of me. There were screenshots of it and a huge manifesto about why my buddies online all wanted to take me away from him. After I broke up with him, I got emails for months swinging between apologies and telling me I was the abuser. I got emails telling me he was being drugged. It was insane. I was dating a guy. I really liked him. He was smart, funny, and adventurous. We were getting pretty serious. He pretty much lived at my house. One weekend I went home for my dad's birthday. All of my brothers were home. I have 5 of them. We ate, drank, and were merry. One of my sister-in-laws took some pictures and posted them on Facebook with me tagged in them. Got back to my house Sunday evening and my boyfriend was coming over shorty to hang out / spend the night. When he got there he was basically frothing at the mouth. He shoved me and called me a harlot. Started pushing me around ranting about how he had to see me harloting myself all over the internet and hanging on a bunch of guys. I told him they were my brothers, but at that point I was done with him. I told him to get the duck out of my house. He took that as an invitation to throw me up against a wall and try to force me to kiss him. My roomie heard the commotion and came out of her room with a bat. Then shithead made the only good decision he made that day and decided to leave. Kicked in a pantry door and wrecked some drywall on his way out though. I threw all his stuff in a dumpster. He ended up stalking me for years. Showing up drunk at places I'd moved to after we dated. Calling after I'd changed my number. Even texted me on the week of my wedding to ask me to reconsider marrying him instead. Yeah, you crazy duck, I want to dump the love of my life for a crazy stalker. Jesus Christ, hope that man leaves you alone. The worst version I have of this was a guy that I had been dating who rammed my truck with a moving van repeatedly at an immigration checkpoint in New Mexico well after dark. He thought it was funny. He'd been behaving badly, but I just thought it was the stress of the move. The aggravated assault by U-Haulies when I decided to break up with him. He stalked me for years after that, harassing me at work, which led to me getting fired. I switched from law firms to legal software, and that seemed to make it harder to find me. His stalking ended in blowing up the brick and mortar mailbox with plastic explosives. I think he laid low after that, because the FBI was looking for him. He eventually moved back to California, years later. An ex-girlfriend of his contacted me about 7 years later, when she was settling his estate. She wanted to make sure there weren't any children. Did he die? He apparently died of a first heart attack at home, sometime in his early 40s. That's crazy. Which job has the highest risk yet lowest reward? Roofer. Hot as balls in the summer, cold as balls in the winter, grueling work that destroys your body, and a non-trivial chance of death via falling. I would add the nightly 12-pack of Budweiser that all roofers are required to drink doesn't help either. Roofers are the most in shape, strong and healthy people I've known. Convenience store or gas station clerk. Get paid less than $10 an hour and someone can come and shoot me in the face for less than $100 in the register? Sign me up. Had a friend who did this job for about that much. He had a shotgun pulled on him. I used to live next door to a guy who worked at a gas station in our neighborhood. Him and another guy working both got shot and robbed. He was okay. I guess the caliber of the gun was the smallest there is. Not familiar with guns, so he avoided getting shot in the spine, which was nice. He got a nice settlement, which he spent all on a really dodgy truck and jet ski. A few months later, he went back to working at the store because he didn't have any money. The old Kenny Powers playbook, I see. Well, since no one has said it, I'll be the one to say it. EMTs. I'm not one, just used to work with one who got out of the job precisely because of how horrible it is for your mental health. In my state they make around $30K a year and they are dealing with things daily that would traumatize most people. Imagine as part of your job seeing the aftermath of one of those suicide videos that you see posted on the dark parts on the internet, or accident gore like a kid getting pancaked on the passenger's side when a car gets T-boned and the parent who is sobbing for their baby on the side of the road. How's performing CPR on someone you know is already dead sound? That is policy, so that the family members on the scene can see that they are trying to do everything to save the victim. You're not gonna turn around and tell the father whose teen daughter jumped to her death from the top of the house onto the empty concrete pool, where you can clearly see there's brain matter from hitting headfirst. Welp, we got called here for nothing. Pack it up, boys. Edit. Insert Reddit regulation approved response to getting a metric ton of karma in a short period of time. Well, to answer a few questions, I no longer work with my EMT friend, so I cannot ask him to clarify or correct my misunderstandings, namely, the CPR on dead people thing. And yeah, from the looks of things it seems it's less of an issue in other developed nations. So good for you guys that get it at least a bit better than they do here in the US. Paramedic here. IDK about what area you work, but if someone's brain is leaking out I'd pronounce them, sit the family down, and have a chat, offer to make a call for a chaplain, and get back in service. We don't work injuries incompatible with life. That said, yeah, I got a couple calls that stick with me. Bouncer. Dealing with a lot of drunk / high pumped up guys that are looking for a fight? No thanks, not on that salary. I was never a bouncer, but I worked as a bathroom attendant in a strip club for a while. On my first day they told me to take any major problems to the bouncers and let them deal with it. The only thing I was supposed to come down hard on was people sniffing coke in the bathroom stalls. Couple of days in, this arrogant looking young dude comes in, locks himself into a stall and starts snorting up a storm. I knocked and politely told him that wasn't allowed, and he told me to go f myself. I asked him again, this time a little more forcefully. He popped his head above the stall and asked me if I knew who he was. I told him I had no idea and went to get the bouncer. When I told the bouncer what's up, he went pale and looked at me like I was nuts. It was the son of the mafia dude who had a piece of the strip club, a guy that you read about in the papers all the time. Let him do all the coke he wants. Hopefully he'll just leave soon, was the message. I went back into the bathroom and apologized. He was at the sink straightening up, looked at me, shook his head, and tipped me $5. Apparently being a professional fisherman is exceptionally dangerous and gets paid pretty poorly, $28,310 average per year. That's also including non-fatal incidents rates too, by the way. Around Alaska, crab fishermen can get between $24,000 and $50,000 a month. So yeah, some fishing pay is low, but if you have the balls for it, crabbing in Alaska is like mining gold at the moment. I feel like this is misleading. I know a few guys who do it, or have done it, and they are not pulling $50K a year. Granted they only work half a year or however long the season is, but I was super surprised how little money they actually took home after it was all said and done. Maybe somebody here can offer more info. Those guys who clean out the sewers by hand in India. Special needs caregivers make like $30k and some have crazy hard and dangerous work. Came here to say this. I was a para at a public high school. The age group was 15 to 21. I started at $19,500 before taxes. The department I worked in was referred to as combat pay. We'd have kids who were getting set off by loud noises, busy hallways, fluorescent lights etc. who couldn't communicate their needs and often they would react violently. I'm not blaming the kids. The district was just warehousing them to save money instead of putting them in the right setting. I never knew when they were going to lash out, and this is grown ass men mind you, and they couldn't even tell you what was bothering them, so you could help de-escalate. I couldn't take all the cuts, bruises, stress and getting blamed for the kids' behavior. Lasted 6 years. Honestly, that's the last job I'd ever take. Just not worth the struggle for me. Liquor store clerks in crime-prone locations that are on duty alone in the store, especially at night. At the stop and rob bodega in the crime-ridden neighborhood I lived in, there was always a gangster-looking dude in a bulletproof vest holding a nickel-plated shotgun sitting on a stool in the back of the store every night. They were never robbed. Reminds me of my local stab and grab. There's a liquor store a block from my house, owned by a career family. Thursday, Friday, and Saturday they have a guy who is the stockiest station dude I've ever seen. He has to be only 5.5 feet tall, but his arms are bigger around than my legs. He wears a stab-proof vest that barely covers half his chest because he's so broad. You can tell his nose has been broken, and he has some scarred up knuckles. I've never seen him fight. He just stands by the door and smiles at everyone as they walk in, but I have no doubt he could throw down. I have some bike messenger friends. Every single one of them has been hit by a car at least once. Meanwhile, they don't actually make enough to have health insurance. Bad combo. Friend of a friend of a friend recently died doing that. It was her first day on the job, and she got hit by a truck. Definitely a tax collector during the French Revolution. PSHHH tax collector during the Bolshevik Revolution. How about tax collector during any revolution? Prostitution. Agree, except for the high class escorts. Some of those women make bank. These would be the good looking, probably already middle class, younger women that decide to go into the business for themselves and seek out higher paying clients. These are far fewer than the survival prostitutes and the people being trafficked, but they do exist. Their biggest risk is their reputation, if they are outed, but some of them turn it into a book deal. Gwyneth Montenegro. Although an unpopular opinion, there are also softer methods of prostitution as well. Sugar babying, Instagram modeling with linked PayPal accounts and wish lists, selling pictures, etc. that have low risk and high reward. I've known women who have done some of the softer practices and made decent side money. The internet really changed everything. I don't see how it's an unpopular opinion. A lot of people would be offended by the notion that sugar babying and the like are prostitution. People pretty hotly debate things like that, especially those people that engage in some of these practices, but don't actually have physical intimacy with people, selling pictures, etc. I don't judge anyone doing those things, but some people would blast me for calling them softer prostitution. You can avoid some of this by calling it sex work instead of prostitution. I'd be hard pressed to call the average Playboy playmate a prostitute, but they are absolutely sex workers. From a purely mathematical perspective, teaching has a 60-70% burnout rate and the pay is dismal. A lot of the time the pay can actually appear to be pretty good at first, until you realize how much unpaid work you have to do. I'm a bit different, because I was teaching a college class, not kids, but for every hour I was paid, I probably spent 35 to 40 minutes doing extra unpaid work, so my pay was really about 60% what it should have been. The majority of it was grading. I was lucky that I was following someone else's lesson plans, so I didn't have to work on that. But since it was a laboratory class, I was expected to spend about 45 minutes to 1 hour every lesson, unpaid, getting familiar with the lab equipment, although this was only really a problem the first time I taught the course. Maybe he's not considered a good teacher, but a friend of mine says he barely has to do any prep work and doesn't complain about marking. He says he teaches the syllabus from the textbook divided into however many lessons there are to teach it in. He seems remarkably unstressed every time I see him. On the other hand, my dad taught the same subject, maths, before he retired, and I'd barely see him when I was a child. Left the house at about 7 am, return home at about 8 pm, then often work until maybe 10 pm. But he was also in senior leadership, so most of his duties were involved the management of the school. Bisexuals of Reddit, what is something that is a turn on from one sex, but a turn off from the other? Boobs. Hun. My GF says I'm perfect because I have a penis and boobs. Never leave her. Easy when you can't stand. French kissing. Girls seem to be more gentle and soft. Guys typically seem to lick my tonsils. Edit. I like girls better. One feels like the graceful touch of a long lost lover. The other feels like a Labrador trying to lick the peanut butter off your face. I'm 100% straight, but I made out with a guy one time. He was trying to have sex with me and gave me a bunch of his cocaine, and I was just totally oblivious, thinking he was a chill dude who was a little handsy. After realizing what was going on, I felt bad for doing his coke, so I told him I was straight but would make out with him for 10 seconds because I felt bad about the whole situation. It was like a flailing tentacle in my mouth and sandpaper on my lips 0/10. I don't do coke anymore. Edit. No one should feel obligated to do something like this. In my case, I did it for 2 reasons. 1. While I'm not gay, giving a dude a kiss is not the biggest deal in the world to me, and I just felt like being nice. It was a gift, I guess. 2. The night had already been so ridiculous that I knew this would make for a great ending, so I willingly did something uncomfortable. Asterisk 99.8% straight. Ambi woman. Shyness/awkwardness. Sometimes. For whatever reason I have an easier time with shy guys than shy girls. I think because I rely too much on a heterosexual script, which helps me get in sync with guys. With girls I'm a little scared and unsure of how to proceed. So if the other girl is shy, there are more spots where we get stuck. That said, it's not a deal breaker at all. As much as it just slows me down, I think it's probably more of a character flaw in myself. I experience the same thing as a bisexual woman. Women generally expect you to make the first move, even if I'm shy and clearly struggling. I think it's because of gender roles, or some bullshit about us being taught to wait for a man to initiate. Except there is no man. Just 2 women being super fucking awkward and no one is committing to anything. I never have the problem of what do you want to have for dinner with girls, because I always know what I want. But yeah, I think I'm just too much of a baby gay, tbh. I don't have my panties on under this sundress. Yes, I'm not wearing underpants. No. Edit. Oh wow. Thank you for the gold, kind stranger. My first gold ever. What about guys wearing panties? Only if it's under a sundress. This guy sundresses. I like blonde women, but not blonde men. I just don't trust them for some reason. So, you like blondes, but not blondes. Red hair. I have red hair and the thought of being with a red-haired guy feels weirdly incestuous to me. I can't even consider the thought of it without being grossed out. I'm extremely attracted to red hair on women though. I once knew an Irish girl who was determined to marry another redhead so they could make more redheads. It's imperative for the continuation of the species. That's basically how she put it. She came from a large ginger family. I'm absolutely not advocating for any sort of purposeful genetic selection in humans, but god, we could use more gingers. I adore red hair. I know the stereotype of ginger men is supposed to be pasty, specky, and overall undesirable, but honestly I'd say 3/4 of ginger men who I've met/noticed, if not more, are so handsome. Holy crap. Ginger girls are beautiful too. I have the biggest soft spot for red hair, and I'm sad the closest I can ever get to it is through dye. I like muscular women. Think Gymshark model/off-duty bikini competitor, but when it comes to the opposite sex, I like soft little noodle boys. Noodle boys heart emoji. What on earth is a noodle boy? I'm seriously out of the loop on this. Excuse, I'm fucking old and can't keep up with you whippersnappers. Noodle boys basically as it sounds. Their body type is like a noodle. Not as strong, not a lot of muscle, and rather thin. I like my men al dente. Love to throw men against the wall to see if they are ready to date me. Blowjobs. I don't know why, Probably because men have more facial hair, so it kinda tickles more. I found that guys tend to give the best blowjobs, facial hair or not. My theory is that guys just know what feels good, and they don't need a lot of practice, since they've been playing with their own dick for their whole lives. Girls are more like lol what's this thing do? Not to say girls give bad blowjobs, but I've had a harder time explaining what does and doesn't feel good to my girls over my guys. I've never in my life been with a girl who could do that thing with a tongue. I don't even know how to describe it, because I sure as shit can't do it, but holy hell does it feel good. Edit. People keep asking, and my inbox is blowing up weird emoji. Basically, someone said it further down, but I think it's called a swirl. You take your tongue and swirl the dick around, while sucking moderately deeply. There's something about it that just stimulates everything all at once like nothing else can. That said, passion and enjoying doing it count for way more than any one technique. Do some research, talk to your partner, see how they like it. I'm a B woman. Men who think it's so hot that I have slept with women gross me out. Women who think it's so gross that I have slept with men also gross me out. I enjoy a good booty on everyone though. Booty never fails us bees. Hey. Booty never fails anybody. Some are just not wise to its virtues. Facial hair. Jim Lee would disagree. Rude to the ladies of Manitoba. Not just the Manitoba, but the Womanitoba and Childrenitoba too. I tend to like women taller than me, and men about my height or shorter. I'm a short dude, BTW. Big guys are fun to look at, but not my thing. I roll. I'm equally okay with chub on everybody, but I like way more skinny guys than women. It's kind of funny that multiple other people on this thread are also into smaller guys and bigger gals. I also like women taller than me and men about my height or shorter. I'm not a man though. Acting mannish. I like my women androgynous and my men feminine. I want my men in girly clothes and my women in manly clothes. The old switcheroo. Very masculine men. I tend to like more femme guys, but I'm equally turned on by more femme and mask women. While very mask guys aren't a big turn on for me. I really don't know why though. I'm the same. I feel like I like people who are a mix of both, which means being more feminine for a dude or more masculine for a woman. This thread is making me realize that my type not changing at all based on gender is not the norm. I like my women like I like my men. Nerdy, introverted, intelligent, open-minded, with brown hair, from New Jersey or Pennsylvania, who like horror movies and the game Silent Hill. I've dated 6 people fitting this description. One didn't like Silent Hill, but we broke up after a month. No, I don't know how I find them, and I don't ask beforehand. I've never lived in NJ and only lived in PA for a summer, and I only dated one of them while I was there. I don't like horror and have never played Silent Hill. I don't know how this happens. Edit. I'm still with Ash6. We live together and have a cat. I'm flattered, y'all, but not interested. You must have strong nerdy, introverted, intelligent, open-minded, with brown hair, from New Jersey or Pennsylvania, who like horror movies and the game Silent Hill. Forceful, almost aggressive kissing / Frenching. I think when dudes do it, it's more that they never think how it feels for the recipient, as in it's a more selfish act, whereas it really does it for me when girls do it, because it kinda upends the convention, and I interpret it as she really knows what she likes. My ex wanted me to destroy her face. She was constantly complaining that I wasn't kissing her hard enough. I told her to show me how she wanted it, and she used enough force it was like laying under a cinder block. I was like, damn girl, that's a problem. Body odor turns me on with guys, but can't do it with girls. One must know their preferences. This was a good joke. AWW. Thanks. That was the first thing I heard when I was born too. Macup on guys is a major turn off for me, kind of in the same vein. Girly clothes on guys is a turn off, but both on a girl is fine. Manly dressed girls are pretty nice too. I have no idea why male cross dressers don't do it for me. In short, I like my men manly and my women whatever. Girly clothes on guys is a turn off. Sorry, but I want to wear sexy lingerie too. And there are a lot of us who very much appreciate men who like to do that. I have inconsistent standards regarding body hair. I'm not usually bothered by women who don't shave their legs or armpits, but a guy who has very obviously never put thought into how his body hair looks is not going to impress me. Me too. I think for me, it's because men are way hairier, so them not cleaning it up at all is a lot of hair, and on most women it's not that much even fully grown out. For me, it's because women tend to be trained better on grooming and hygiene, where not shaving is more likely to be a statement than a lack of understanding. So many men haven't. Redditors who have a job where they go into other people's homes, plumbers, electricians, etc. What's the weirdest, most disturbing thing you've seen while working in a customer's house? I'm a face painter who does children's birthday parties. I've never had any super sketchy experiences, just a few rundown homes, but the kids always have fun. I went to one house, kinda messy and smelly, but no big deal. I started setting up my supplies, and I heard a weird peep sound above me. I look up to see a guinea pig running through a clear plastic tube attached to the ceiling. Then I take a good look around the house and notice the whole place is covered with a network of guinea pig tubes. The mom noticed me looking around and nonchalantly told me they have like 10 guinea pigs used to deliver oxygen to people's homes. Saw plenty of weird things. Lots of hoarders, but this one took the cake. He didn't want to let us into his house, but I had to do a home safety assessment before I could set up the equipment. He was anxious about letting me in because his house was mess. He kept telling me about his messy house. Come to find out, it wasn't just messy, it was filled with 200 chickens. He was proud of his show chickens and wouldn't let them live in a barn or coop. The smell was unbearable. Other than that, he was a super nice guy. All I can think of reading this is the little girl saying, "Look at all those chickens." Food bank delivery to homebound elders. I always fill 2 banana boxes, around 1.5 by 3 foot deep, of all types of food, and deliver to his house. One time after delivering to him for 3 years I have to come inside because he hurt his foot. He had never thrown out a single box. They lined every wall and entrance. He built a castle around his bed and a series of paths through his house. It was like thighs pillow forts you would make as a kid but with boxes. I asked him if he wanted help getting rid of them, and he said no, that it was fun and helped with his dimension. Has super fun. Edit, I'm letting it stay. His dimension? Either you misspelled dementia or has got some mad real estate. I prefer the latter. I delivered pizza for about 2 years. I had to deliver to a local motel pretty frequently. One day I go to deliver, and a large lady, I'm talking 6 feet 0 inches 220, was decked out in dominatrix attire. She answered the door ready to get down to business, then immediately closed the door and threw a robe on. She apologized profusely and then tipped me $10 for the situation. Edit, to answer some questions. Sure, I could have gone in, but when these situations come up at 16 you never play them like you think you would. Also, she took one look at me and probably thought I was way too young to be her client. Damn baby face I look. Like I'm 20, I'll be 30 soon. Sad face. You're lucky that she wasn't expecting her client to show up as a pizza delivery guy who she is supposed to forcibly abduct and discipline. Well, never thought of this. You bring up a great point. I'm an electrician, and I was troubleshooting a bad outlet in the bathroom of a former NFL player. I was taking all the outlets apart, following them to see if I could trace out the home runs, when he comes in and starts talking football. We are in the middle of talking when he just walks over to the toilet and starts taking a shit. I couldn't see him, but there was just a little pony wall between us. He didn't even stop telling his story. It was crazy. I walked out because of the smell. He came out a little later, and it was like nothing ever happened. That's probably normal for the guy. Doubt training camps and whatnot are known for having stellar bathrooms. I remember a story about a player being gifted a game ball by the coach because he managed to take a shit while on the bench in the middle of the game without someone noticing. My husband was in the military, and I grew up with a huge family in a very small house. Neither of us have boundaries when it comes to going to the bathroom. We do try to remember not to leave the door open when we have company, but I do get a bit lonely with it closed. Long ago I did estimates for fire and water damage repairs for a restoration company. This couple had a smallish fire in their bedroom. When I enter the home it's seemingly normal. Smells like smoke. There was a fire. Makes sense. They take me to the bedroom, and it was the mattress that had endured the majority of the fire, along with some of the wall above the head of the bed and smoke damage to the ceiling. Next to each side of the bed are 10-gallon buckets filled to the brim with cigarette butts, and hundreds of spilled over butts all over the floor. I was just in awe how they could live like this in their bedroom, especially since the rest of their home seemed tidy and normal. Also completely beyond me why they wouldn't clean that shit up after the fire, if for no other reason than insurance adjusters being able to blame them, rightly, and possibly not pay out. How did the fire start, I asked. Required to ask. No idea, the husband replied. Truly a mystery for the ages. My boyfriend is a locksmith. During the 2008 recession, Las Vegas had hundreds/thousands of homes that were getting repaired or abandoned. The company he worked for would have him go and change the locks to keep people out, and usually this happened in the middle of the night to limit the possibilities of running into ex-owners of the properties. I sometimes tagged along, mostly to explore some of the ridiculously big houses that people had just left, but helped some of the time. This one house looked totally normal from the outside. You couldn't tell any difference from any of the other cookie-cutter, planned development homes. But inside, in every room, there were those timeout dolls. If you have never seen them, they are a doll that stands against the wall with its hands up to its face, and even more creepy, usually they have no face, but they look like a kid hiding their face, or pouting after being put in a timeout. When I say they were in every room, I mean every single room. And not just one, but dozens, lining the walls. Not laying down, but standing up against every wall of the house. The house's electricity had been shut off, so all we had was flashlights. Walking into each room, it did not get less creepy seeing doll after doll. He is already afraid of dolls, and this made it so much worse. Altogether we counted 63, but there might have been more. And now I know what I'm doing if I ever get evicted. Figure out which room will be one of the last ones they get to and set up a motion sensor that activates a recording that goes, "Do you want to play a game?" in a creepy child's voice, and have a small doll on a tricycle slowly come out, and make an entire 8-movie franchise with it. My uncle is a handyman, and he went in to do some work for a family, and the toilet was just fesses. Not like someone didn't flush, rather nobody did, and the bowl was just crammed full of hardened stool, which had clearly been an accumulating scenario. Usually drug addicts, the scenes you can see are genuinely worse than animals. It's dreadful. I've posted this before a while back, but used to work pest control. Went into student accommodation to deal with insects. Can't remember what type. Carpet moths or bed bugs, maybe? Anyway, that's not the point of the story. This one room is fairly clean, but we have to spray all fabrics with the chemical in question to prevent any eggs from having a safe space to gestate. So open up suitcases, wardrobes, that sort of thing. One suitcase is full of used tampons that she was saving for fuck knows what reason, actually, and I don't want to know. Nasty shit that didn't mention it, just did the job and tried to avoid eye contact at the end. I know a guy who dated a girl who collected hers, as well as tissue she had used, hair, fingers and toenails, scabs, just like almost anything that came off or out of her body. It would have been cool to know why she did all this, but the bigger question was why he stayed with her after knowing about this. Witchcraft. Simplest answer to both questions. I painted a girl's room one time while she laid in bed and played on her phone and took naps. I knocked and expected her to leave, but she just lay back down. It was very strange. When I was a kid, I was always so awkward around contractors and painters and shit. She probably didn't realize the right way to do it was get out of the fucking room. Feo. Now I'm definitely thinking of the times I've loitered where it probably made more sense for me to leave. I had an internet tech come by and swipe a $20 Steam card before. Never left the room for that company again. Inspecting an oven a tenant had complained was smoking. Yup, it definitely was. Tenant thought an oven could be used like an outdoor grill. Had been cooking meat directly on the oven racks, and all that glorious fat and grease just accumulated in the bottom of the oven and the little drawer underneath for months. How he didn't burn down the whole damn building is beyond me. I also patched a bullet hole in a shared wall/ceiling between apartments. One tenant let his girlfriend play with his loaded gun. She stupidly and accidentally fires it into next door neighbor's apartment. Neighbor was playing video games and didn't notice the bullet come through his wall into the ceiling. Had no clue until the gun-owning boyfriend knocked at his door in a panic and was relieved to see him alive. Oopsie. Edit. Thanks for the silver, kind stranger. Edit 2. Bloody awesome. My top comment isn't about a bag of used tampons anymore. Nice of him to check in. Glad everybody is okay. Had a chuckle at not noticing a bullet come through your house. I'd like to imagine he was playing Animal Crossing. God, I wish I could find the post, but a while ago someone made a post about how a bullet went into their apartment and it got stopped by a couple of books or a desk or something. Straight up wild. Couples who have moved in together. What surprised you most about living with a male/female? I thought if I ever moved in with a girl, I'd have to be way less of a slob. Turns out I'm the neat freak in this relationship. You and me both, dude. We've had fights over whether or not a Swiffer is as good as a vacuum. It's not. She refused to buy one, so I bit the bullet and got one on Prime Day, and our place is 100% cleaner. Edit. Not everyone has carpets, please chill. I got a great deal on a Roomba on Prime Day, but unfortunately a Roomba doesn't do anything about a pile of 2 weeks worth of clothing on the floor. Hey, it does something. It gets caught and then beeps loudly. How different our versions of clean are. The first thing every couple should do when they move in together is discuss what clean means to them. If you don't, you'll eventually have an exasperated fight where one partner feels like the other is not pulling their weight. That your partner may follow you around the house just because. Is your partner, perchance, a puppy? You know what's crazy? At the end of my comment I was literally gonna put, just like a puppy tbh. But yay, like they don't even try to hide that they're following you either. Husband can confirm. Sometimes I just want to be in the same room and will follow. Edit. To emphasize sometimes as apparently that word is getting glossed over. Can also confirm. Been with my girl for 10 years and still follow her anytime she leaves the room. I spend 3 days a week away from home, an evening on my alone time when the missus goes to bed. So during the day I normally follow her around the house as that's our time together. Please, stop following me. I'm not following you. Then what did you come in this room to do? I don't have to explain myself to you. You're not my supervisor. My girlfriend has a hard time being alone. When we are home, basically every waking minute she wants to be together. I love her with all my heart, but sometimes I just want to be alone doing my own thing for an hour or two. Watching sports, playing guitar, gaming, etc. But when I leave for another room I can hear the disappointment in her voice. I'm working on getting her to understand my need for occasional alone time. Sometimes I need what only you can provide, your absence. That's clever but feels semi-rude. I have never observed my wife put a bobby pin in her hair. I have found thousands of bobby pins in our house. I built a sunroom out of bobby pins and elastic hairbands. The new extra carport is coming along nicely. I once pulled Chewbacca out of the bathroom sink. Only once. It's a bi-weekly ritual in my house. And it's always my wife and daughters telling me that the drains are clogged and I need to do something about it. Oh look, none of my short hairs seem to be a part of these clogs. Why is it that I'm the one cleaning the drains? My vacuum beat a bar too. I need to cut whole wigs out once or twice a month. How often I'd be helping her find her car keys. Eventually, I put up a hook that I was able to get her in the habit of using. Made me tear up a little at the time, but a couple weeks after we split I remember getting a text from her that said I miss being able to find my keys. That's kinda cute in its way, you woo. It was pretty heartbreaking at the time. I was having a hard time dealing with the breakup. I'm sure she was trying to just be cute and funny, but it honestly didn't help at the time. The hair, man. It gets everywhere. Seriously. I found her hair wrapped around my balls and had to untangle it. I was almost convinced she was putting it there when I was sleeping to duck with me. Everything has a decorative pillow on it. They are too small to be used for anything, and I'm not allowed to throw them on the floor or pile them all on one chair. The bed has a bunch and a long tube thing. I'm not allowed to whack her with the tube thing. Where did these come from? Why do we need them? If they are just in the way, can we put them in storage? No? Okay. Babe, whatever you want. Seriously, what are we supposed to do with the tube thing? Hit people with it and wave it around like it's a giant dingus. I've got 2 moves and both are big no-nos apparently. The lightsaber and the helicopter. His ability to be doing nothing. He can lay on the couch and stare at the ceiling and do nothing and think nothing, and he enjoys it. I would pull a muscle or pop something from the strain if I tried to do that. Edit. Thanks for the awards. Ira did so he can nothing in peace. Sitting in the passenger seat and just stare at the roads, not saying anything. Why are you so quiet? Are you upset? What's wrong? Sorry, I was in the middle of a heated argument with myself. I was trying to determine if using slices of French toast still count as a grilled cheese or a melt. Edit. As a thanks for the gold, you all better post your French toast grilled cheese / melt. For me, how subtle the need for alone time crept up on me. I wasn't unhappy in the slightest, and moving in was natural. But over time I felt myself becoming irritable, and it turned out that I tend to get that way when I don't have time to myself, because I went from being alone in my room after work in my parents' house to being around myself pretty much every minute I'm not at work or driving. So I found myself with someone almost 24/7, and it took a toll. Thankfully once I recognized that, it was easier to manage. What do you do to manage it? I'm worried about this in future relationships without saying leave me alone. To be honest, once I figured it out I just explained it to my so. Thankfully he's very understanding. And to be honest I don't even get much more time alone than before, but just acknowledging it and how it affects my mood helped a lot. Having my partner understand that and offer to give me some space if I felt that way ended up making it so that I didn't feel that way as often. I imagine in an apartment that isn't just a studio, it's much easier to manage since there would be other rooms to have to yourself smiley face. Wait, healthy communication solved the problem? That makes it just like pretty much every relationship problem. She's good at playing Tetris and very organized. I was living with my parents since I traveled for work and only made it home 1 or 2 weekends a month. She moved in with me at my parents' house. We had one room to store stuff. My bedroom we bought things we'd need when we moved out, when we saw a deal too good to pass up, and she stored them. I realized she was good when we had to make 4 trips to get all our stuff out. 4 trips. This girl had boxes inside boxes inside boxes. She utilized every inch available in our room to stack items. We just bought a house and still have some boxes left to unpack. I will call her at work and say something like, hey, do you remember that blue paper clip I like to use? I can't find it. She will tell me which room, which box, what container, and what is beside it, just in case I still can't find it. She should compete in a Tetris tournament. Boom. Tetris for Jeff. I always knew women went through TP faster than men, but I never knew how much faster they did. It got to the point I'd just grab a pack of TP whenever I went to the store for any reason. We may not be out at home, but we will be soon, I reckoned, and I was never wrong about that. My mom and sister came to visit me a few weeks ago. They stayed for 3 days. 3 ducking days. Before they came I'd just cracked open a new pack of 4 rolls. It was gonna last me the month. They left me with nothing. After living with him for 4 years, I opened a drawer of his dresser, and it was empty. All of it. Apparently he thought it was my extra dresser. He doesn't use a dresser. Clothes get washed and put into a clean clothes hamper. He puts socks and underwear in his bedside table. Now I'm wondering what other furniture in our house is empty. I use a clean and dirty basket too. Would not discard the possibility of him knowing that it was his dresser and he just likes the basket system more. The underwear and socks thing is kinda weird though. The constant putting away of kitchen counter appliances. Me babe, where's the toaster and the coffee maker? Babe and the cabinet below. Me why? Babe because they don't need to be out on the counter. Edit. My first gold. Thank you, kind stranger. Or dishes you're still using. Where's my fork? In the dishwasher. I'm still eating. The true shock for me was the sheer amount of time my husband spends in the laboratory. Prior to the invention of smartphones, many of us kept a small library of bathroom reading material for just this reason. Edit. My pre-2008 preferred reading list. The Far Side. Calvin and Hobbes. The The Economist. Edit #2. Based upon all the replies, I've come to the conclusion that somewhere in this world there is a chemical engineer who was inspired by reading the names of chemical compounds on the back of shampoo bottles while pooping. Edit #3. It appears that much of the world's premier innovators in energy, the environment, biomedicine, electronics, food production, and materials are inspired poopers. Learning that there's a wrong way to fold towels apparently.